Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Well, welcome to MindShifters Radio. We're delighted that you're with us, and we're honored to have the opportunity to bring to you the ancient Aramaic ideas of forgiveness and to support you and to support ourselves in learning that process. Our invitation, as we usually do, is to invite you to join the team that changed the world. What does that change mean? We're looking to create a space on planet Earth that's safe for human life to show up, safe for the awesome creatures that we were designed to be to exist here on the Earth. What is human life? Well, we have an easy definition. Hold a newborn child, you know exactly what human life is. Live as a human, and you get to experience this awesome presence of love. If you buy into the world's way of doing things, there's not much human life left. We have hostility, fear, rage, grief, guilt, pain, trauma, hatred, terrorism, war. We're looking to put an end to those things. How do you do that? You get human life to show up. When human life shows up, those things start to disappear. War and all of those other things are a product of what's going on inside of us that we choose not to deal with. And so what we're looking to do is to invite you to be willing to step into a space of responsibility and to really, truly, totally, freely live as a human being, as this awesome active presence of love you were designed to do. Well, how do you do that, Michael? Here's how you do it. You forgive everything in you that is less than that. Forgiveness has nothing to do with, I'm going to let you off the hook because of the pain that's inside of me. Forgiveness is the tool with which I change what's happening inside of me. So we're here to support you in engaging in that process and bringing it about in your world. And so, Dr. Tim, are you with us, sir?
I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you for being willing on a few minutes' notice. We're out here in the boonies in Theodosia, and find out that the folks who supply us with our internet are up the hill with the whole wireless internet system torn apart, replacing some parts. So we had no internet, so thank you, Dr. Tim, for being available. And what's on your mind today?
Well, there were a lot of things on my mind until I had to start doing the switchboard and the chat room and try and get that all up. We've got, I think, if I remember how this works, 970. I think the question mark means they have their hand up. Is that right?
I think it's 970 is probably Kerry, and Kerry usually shares with us, so let's give it a shot and see.
So 970?
Hey, you guys, it's Kerry in Colorado.
Welcome, young lady.
Well, yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I talked to you, and I ended up doing over a dozen worksheets on all these items that I could list in my world that have appeared in this world I'm in, and there's more on the list, but that sort of paint the picture of this world that I'm in right now. And I decided, after talking to you, I decided to do worksheets, and I tried to do them last night, and I fell asleep doing them. In fact, I would start falling asleep, and I would start dreaming the words that I should write into the worksheet. I would wake up, and I'd go, oh, here's the words, and they'd be right there.
Awesome.
In my dream. And,
sounds like you really weren't going to sleep. It sounds like you were just going into deep process.
Yeah, and here is the most exciting thing, because I couldn't really completely stay awake last night. I finally gave up after about 5 worksheets, and I did the rest this morning. But what I discovered, and in my literally hundreds of worksheets I've done in the last year, almost every single worksheet had fear as the operative emotional, negative emotion that was involved.
Right.
And what I realized when I did these was, and whenever I do a worksheet, I put, what's the surface emotion, and then whether it fits into fear or hostility after it. And
right.
So I started going frustration. Oh, hostility. Okay, so every single one of those worksheets I did, hostility was at the root of them. And I have literally hundreds of worksheets. I've never had hostility come up. And although I know it's in there, and but what was exciting about it to me as I began to realize is that I think fear for my survival made it very difficult for me to express hostility because it wasn't allowed in the world that I lived in as a child. So,
and with the genetics of a Middle Eastern woman,
yeah,
you don't do that. You're supposed to be subservient and quiet and don't feel that. But the truth is, it still goes on inside, and that's how we drug ourselves against the pain.
Yeah. Well, so
I support you just taking a breath right now, letting go of your head for a minute and just feeling what you're feeling and go all the way into that feeling.
Yes. It's just, how powerful it was to do those worksheets and realize what a deep level of unconsciousness I was accessing because I could barely stay awake to do them. But when I was going unconscious, I'd be dreaming the words I should write into the worksheet, and then going through all of them and realizing hostility was there at the base of every single one of those items that I could describe in my world and realizing I kind of painted this picture around myself so that I could start bringing that to the surface. And it's so exciting. It's just amazing.
Now, when you look back, you look at the year of work that you've done and how many unconscious dynamics you've uncovered, and that it's taken you a year to get to the point where you could touch into this. You look at the fact that those are the unconscious dynamics, and I'm inviting everybody to just notice how our relationships work. You look at that level of unconscious dynamics, and then you get 2 people in a household functioning out of that, which they're not allowed to look at, and you've got a perfect recipe for insanity and crazy time, which is, what's going on in our culture.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing. I really had that awareness, too, as I was doing those worksheets, how also in the recent relationship that I was in, I was not allowed to express feelings that I had about anything. It was not acceptable in that dynamic.
Right.
And of course, I pulled that in because that was still an operative energy inside of me. And you were in a relationship which just reflected exactly what you held. And when you get 2 people who are reflecting their unconscious dynamics in a relationship, we call those relationships based in matching bags of garbage. And they're wonderful. The world calls them love relationships, but they're really relationships based in matching bags of garbage, and they're the perfect opportunity to touch into those parts of us and clean them up. But you've got to develop the skills. The Guy Finley that you hear Tim talk about often tells a great story. I just love this story. And it's a story about a guy who's getting ready to go on a journey, and he goes to visit his friend who he's heard is starting a new business on his way out of town. And his friend is just putting up a sign for his new business, handmade wooden chairs. And he's like, well, Charlie, I'm going out of town for 6 months. I'll be gone for 6 months. I'll be back. And as soon as I come back, I'll touch in, and I'd love to see how your business is going. And so off he goes, and Charlie's just putting up his sign. And when he gets back, he goes by to visit Charlie. And Charlie's taking down the sign and putting up a new sign. And he says, well, what happened to your handmade wooden chair business? He said, well, I found out I just wasn't very good at working with wood, so, I decided to close that business down. And he's putting up his new sign, and the new sign says, handmade wooden furniture.
He says, well, Charlie, why are you doing handmade wooden furniture? He said, well, I just thought I'd try again and see if it would be different. And it's interesting how many people do trauma and insanity in relationship. They acquire no skills. No, I'm too busy to take time out to do some work. I'm too busy. I have too much on my plate, don't you know? I got to go out and find a new partner. I've got to go out and they acquire no new skills, and they wonder why it turns out the same. It's like, hello? So I acknowledge you for the willingness, once you started to tap into this work again, to go, okay, I'm digging in and doing my work, and this is the fruit of your work. And, I share that with everybody to just say, get on board, do your work. What you're going to find in your dissociated mind, you're going to be very shocked and surprised at. And you're going to be healed by looking through it and cleaning it up.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I just wanted to share that because that was pretty revealing and very exciting, really.
Well, congratulations, and I guess you're probably just about getting ready to get in the car and drive from Colorado to Heartland, right? Close to part-time, right?
Yep, early tomorrow morning I'll be on the road.
Fabulous. Well, we look forward to seeing you and seeing you have a safe journey where you breathe all the way and you're totally in touch with everything around you, and
absolutely.
That's exactly the information you need to have in order to heal and
absolutely.
get ready to come into this 9-day to just open and move so much baggage. So we're looking forward to supporting you.
Thanks. Okay, looking forward to it.
All right, bless you, Kerry. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Dr. Tim, do you have any thoughts for us?
Well, just that it's we're frequently talking about building the brain cells, and another way of talking about that is building enough fundamental experiences that we can go back to the same situation with a new set of eyes and understand it at a whole new level the second, the third, and the 47th time we go back to it. And the whole concept of going unconscious came up again in the group on Tuesday night, and it's got so many different dimensions for each of us. We have so many different ways to go unconscious. There's the flat denial and suppression, but then there are all of the myriad different distortions between there and actually being able to see with open eyes clearly what's happening in front of us. And in a situation like Kerry just had, I can imagine that new ears would have a very difficult time understanding what you mean by what she thought she was going unconscious, and you being able to interpret that as a different level of processing. So my thought was, if you could explain how you could decide, okay, her drifting off to sleep wasn't really just drifting off to sleep, it's actually a deeper level of processing, as opposed to going unconscious. Because I know I've talked about a year ago, I had a whole series of worksheets that I discussed on the show where I was just, at the end of each worksheet, I couldn't decide what I felt, and all I felt like was that I must have fallen asleep in the middle of the worksheet. I couldn't really come up with a word to describe what I was feeling at the end of the worksheet, and for several of them in a row, I swear I fell asleep. And I would go back and I'd missed step 3 or step 4. So if you could just say a little bit about how you picked up from what Kerry just reported, it being a level of processing as opposed to just going unconscious.
Sure. Great question. Great distinction between the two. And, Kerry's called in several times on the show and shared where she was going unconscious, where, I'm sitting watching a video and I just fall over and go to sleep. I just go right out and go unconscious. And part of, especially if you've ever done any kinds of drugs or alcohol, legal or illegal, anesthetic, what have you, when you start accessing the places in you where those things are stored, literally, you fall over, you just go to sleep, and it is going unconscious. But what Kerry shared with us that was happening for her sounds more like what she was doing, was going into still point, spontaneous still point, and processing and being given the guidance as to what it is that she needed to deal with, what it is that needed to move. So we, in many cases, like for instance, we do still point breathing. In many circles where they do different types of breath work, when you go into the still point, which is the most important superconscious state and most powerful high-speed, fast-forward processing state, in many types of breathing, that's where you get a jab in the ribs and you're told you're going unconscious. But that's different from going unconscious. It's a state where one is in zero resistance. They're in a superconductor state, and the energy moves high speed, fast forward. I mean, literally, you can go through years of stuff in seconds. And it's happening, my experience personally is that it's happening from a soul level instead of a mental level. And the mind is so slow, what we call the mind is so slow that it can't even start to keep up with it. When one goes into still point, oftentimes all the mind remembers is a few silly images. You know, I saw somebody on a tricycle, I saw a balloon, I saw somebody holding a pen, I saw somebody swimming in a swimming pool, and, you know, none of it made any sense. But what's really going on there is there's this whole scenario that's being processed out on a super high-speed fast forward that the mind just can't keep up with. And, you know, if you look back in the Aramaic, it speaks about Satan as a lowercase word. It's not an uppercase word. It's not a person or a demon or what have you. In Aramaic, it's a lowercase word, and it means the resistor, one who misleads. So when we go into resistance to truth, we hold the breath, we lock in unconsciousness, and the mind tells us a whole story about what's going on inside of us, but makes it look like the story's outside of us, and we blame somebody else for it. Once you get to a state of willingness and a state of process where you're in that super processor state, those things just move high speed, fast forward. And that's what I heard Kerry being she was being guided. She wasn't just going blah to unconscious. She was being guided as to what to do in the next step in her process. And that's where that veil is opened and things are moving on a level that the mind just can't keep up with. But it's anything but a state of unconsciousness when that happens.
So there's two keys there. One is that you had some experience with her process of going unconscious before, and the other one is that she didn't just fall asleep. She came right back to awareness, dreaming the words that she needed to put down on her worksheet.
Exactly. And so that would be moving into, it's what I hear her describing is moving into still point and being given guidance. And, you know, ultimately, what we're looking to do with this healing process is to invite that elemental force that Yeshua called Ruka Dukudsha into activity in us. And what I heard her describing is the activity of Ruka. And the words Ruka Dukudsha in Aramaic, Ruka represents all of the elemental forces, and the word Ruka Dukudsha is a particular elemental force for humans. And in Aramaic, it's a feminine force that literally undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. And it's the words that have been translated by the Greeks through their scriptures as the Holy Spirit, but it's got nothing to do with the disembodied spirit being. It's literally, in our modern culture and language, would be a high-speed processor put in us by the Creator to bypass our limited mental faculties and go into a super processor state. And the definition of Ruka Dukudsha in Aramaic is a feminine elemental force that undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. And when you invite it fully into activity, it does exactly what was just being described by Kerry. It moves us into that. It shows us, it guides us, and it moves out what never belonged. And there's one of the things that I've observed in my own life and watched people who consistently do their work is they move into a processing point, a sensitivity point, where that veil is open and that energy is moving high speed. And that's what I hear Kerry with her willingness doing and her working with the worksheets so diligently for over a year. I don't know if she's still online. I don't know how many of you've kept track of how many worksheets you've done, Kerry, but from the sound of it, it's probably in the range of a couple of thousand or more. And that's what moves us into the capacity to deal with things on that level.
All right. Well, she's got her hand up again. Let's see.
Cool.
So, Kerry?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say, wow, what an awesome explanation, and it fully makes sense. And I just absolutely love it. And it definitely, that's what it felt like. It felt like I was in this kind of stream of consciousness that was like faster than my conscious mind could keep up with. It's really cool. How awesome. And yeah,
and I've only seen a few people over the years. I've come to call it, when I've observed it, I've come to call it living at process point, where the veil is open, the space is tender, and the energy is moving. And if you get to that point and can maintain that, you can do, multiple times. I wouldn't venture a guess that 10 times, 100, 1,000 times as much work in a minute than you could previously in perhaps weeks.
You know what's interesting is, as this was going on, I had this awareness of trying to grasp with my conscious mind what was happening and going and thinking to myself, this is beyond my logical ability to explain. I guess I'm just going to attempt to grasp the feeling or the experience and just allow it to be, rather than trying to logically break it down. Because I thought, how could I ever explain to anybody what I'm experiencing right now? Because it's so much bigger than a little point of consciousness, Yeah,
and you've heard me say many times on the show, if you're going to heal, you've got to be out of your mind. Our culture teaches us to become addicted to the intellect and try to figure things out, and that's one of the pseudo-solutions of the non-being mind, and trying to figure it out, grasp it, and slow it down enough that we can understand it. It's like, no, let it go. That's the super processor. Trust it. Trust Ruka, let it move, and it will move in you, and it will flesh out more than you could do in, years of normal work speed.
It's so exciting. And really, me getting here, too, as you know, I went through body electronics. We healed my broken arm with body electronics. The doctors wanted to do surgery and put two pins in, and that was back in 1981. So I've had a lot of years of immersing myself in sort of a beyond consciousness process, I guess, and, I've meditated, and, it is sort of part of the path of my life to allow myself to be in a place where supernatural things can take place. I guess what we'd call supernatural, paranormal, beyond the logical mind anyway. So thank you for that. Awesome. Dr. Tim for the questions, and Michael for answering. Really awesome. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
And my offering is, that's the normal state of a human life. We just don't have much human life on Earth. So, we watch people walking around in bodies that are shaped like humans, and we think, they're humans. And so what these humans are doing, they're raging, they're worrying, they're killing. This is just the way human life is. It's like, no, there's no human life there. That's got nothing to do with human life. The average person in our culture is so filled with grief and rage and hate and vengeance and pain and trauma, gossip, slander, viciousness, that what's running our culture and what's going on, there's almost no human life there. There are a couple of fellows that started a thing called the Civility Project, and they went around the country inviting people to sign a pledge to be civil in their public intercourse, in their public interaction with people. And they particularly went to the Congress and to the 50 leaders of the states, the 50 governors of the states, so 585 people. And they lobbied these 585 people for 2 years to be willing to sign a civility pledge. In 2 years, they could get 3 people to sign a civility pledge. 3 people who said, okay, I'll function as a human. I think we should turn our whole political process upside down, kick out the non-humans, and bring in people who only function as humans. The first order of business to be a leader should be you have a human life first, and you function out of that human life. Our whole culture would be sane and would be so different.
This is one of the things I really want to access explaining in the 21st century superhuman, more than just physical, how to access physical well-being, but also how to access these kind of states as a regular, way of life. So every step I go through here on my own is helping me understand more how to communicate this. So I'm excited about that too.
That's what we're all doing, and it's awesome the space you're in to be coming to start the 9-day intensive on Monday. That's just such a fabulous place to be. I'm so delighted. And the energy that you will bring to the group will be awesome.
Nice. Cool. All right. Well, I'll sign back off and let you guys continue with the show, but thank you so much for the wisdom. Good to
All right.
get it.
Blessings. Appreciate you. Congratulations for being so committed.
Yeah, thanks.
Where, in terms of your commitment to yourself, have you averaged 5 worksheets a day for the last, what has it been? It's been over a year since we connected in Florida again.
Did she drop off?
Are you still there, Kerry? I guess she dropped off. Okay.
Yeah, she dropped
cool.
out.
Well, do we have any other callers? Or
well,
any other thoughts for you, Tim?
Somebody sent me, after our group on Tuesday night, the next day, sent me one of your favorite Einstein quotes, that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And that's what was brought to mind as we were talking about Kerry tapping into that higher level of processing.
Yes, and we could actually refine his quote a little bit, I think, and say, not only honors the servant, but makes the servant the master. When we're addicted to our intellects, the servant is the master. And, Yeshua gives a parable about the master bound by the servants in his own household. This body-mind unit is our household. It is our temple. Our servants are supposed to be our thoughts, our feelings, our realities, our guiding system, our goals, our decisions, our behaviors. And most people are run by them. They've got it backward. These things are awesome, awesome servants, but they're despicable masters.
Yep, I would have to agree. Way of Mastery says that it's intended to be, pardon the words, a very stupid servant. That conscious, logical, rational mind is not meant to run the show.
No.
So
in its proper place, it's a great footstool.
Yeah, it's a nice tool to pick up from time to time, but when we're done with it, we need to learn to put it back down and get on with it.
Exactly.
Well,
there's a great movie that kind of illustrates that called Being There.
Oh, yeah.
You haven't seen that? Being There is awesome. And it's exactly about what we're talking about.
Yeah, that was amazingly well written. So in the chat room, we have a couple of different things going on. One is Nene checked in, and she was asking people to hold a space of love for her daughter who's in some denial, and Nene is going to be breathing her soon. Nene is in Venezuela and has a workshop, a Y workshop next week she's preparing for. So she's
awesome.
Still out there spreading the forgiveness idea. And someone named Tamara was asking about having some encounters with strange men who approached her. 2 seemed inappropriately flirtatious, even sexual, and one was a homeless man who asked for some money. And what that's about energetically. And Peacemaker was telling her it sounds like she's trying to complete some work on a feeling. And it turns out that Peacemaker was tapping into the idea of rejection, and Tamara said that's ringing a bell, because what caused the crisis with her best friend was a situation where she did not attend a very important event for Tamara, and she did feel rejected. So they're working that back and forth with some comments, trying to own the source of the energy and the emotion. And
cool. Well, our call-in number, if you want to call in and chat about it, and maybe get some other input, the phone number is 646-200-4169. You'd be welcome to call in, push 1, and you'd be in queue.
Yeah, I have made that invitation. And right now there aren't any other hands up. So
if there's anybody on the show who's listening, if you were to be listening to this conversation, sitting in the room with us, would you have a question for Dr. Tamarai? If so, would you pick up the phone, call us, and hit 1. Ask your question. 646-200-4169. Other than that, I wonder, is Jeanie on the line, Dr. Tim? She's actually in the car driving, so she may not be.
So what would
listening.
her number be? What would it start with?
It's 423. 423-484.
No.
No. Okay.
No, Tamara says she will call in later if possible.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Fabulous.
Check out for a bit because a student came into her office. But we have people on from North Carolina and several other locations listening in.
Well, if we were having a personal conversation, what would be your next question? Give us the gift of hitting 1 and asking your question. We want to support you. Oftentimes, the non-being mind would say, well, this is a silly question. There are no silly questions. What's happening for you? How can we support you? What goes on around this conversation around being conscious or unconscious? And if you're ready to take your work to the next level, we have a fair-sized group, but we still have a few spaces left in the 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again intensive that starts on Monday. So I'm sitting here at Heartland. I'm sitting out in the front deck. It's a gorgeous day. It's probably about 85 degrees, sunny, beautiful blue skies. The trees are just awesome. The energy's awesome. In the 10-day Food, Fun, Forgiveness, and Work project we're doing some cooked food. So I just had this plate of broccoli with an Alfredo sauce on it that was to live for, and a barbecue made with texturized vegetable protein and our own homemade molasses. Oh, man. You want to taste this food. Of course, on Monday when we start the 9-day intensive, we'll move into a totally fresh and raw live food program. So if you want to join us for that, you could go to the website. You can communicate with me through the website. If you hit any of the email addresses, they'll go to Jeanie or to me, and we can start a conversation, a full 9-day intensive, and that 9 days will do. Why is this happening to me again? Healing through relationships, communication. Did you hear what I think I said? Purpose, personal power, and commitment, empowered to heal. MindShifters, hands-on energy field work, still point breathing, and codependence to interdependence, all in a 9-day intensive process. Total fresh and raw food, the most awesome food you've ever eaten. People who come and do that intensive who just can't imagine, what do you eat, lettuce for 9 days? Oh, no. It is awesome. And it looks like, I just had a conversation with Ari, our chef from Chicago, and he was supposed to be leaving here when this 10-day was over, but it looks like he's going to stay for the 9-day. And so he's got all kinds of new recipes that he's bringing in. We're actually going to revise. We're getting ready to reprint the recipes book. It's up to about 160 pages, and from the sound of it, it may be 200 pages by the time we're finished with this Food, Fun, Forgiveness, and Work project. So pretty awesome what's happening. And if you're interested in coming and doing that intensive, we have a teaching center in the Ozarks in southern Missouri, a place called Heartland. We have 17 acres and 15 buildings, comfortable accommodations, and we'll step into process work Monday evening. We'll serve dinner around, sometime between 6 and 7 o'clock usually, and go into our first opening session, and then go through a whole week of deep, intensive inner work. So if you're ready for that, there's going to be some wonderful folks here. We've got a fabulous crew here right now, and several of those folks are staying over for the 9-day and then staying on for teacher training. So if you want to join us, you can jump on the website, www.whyagain.com. Click on the link for intensive schedule, and it'll tell you exactly the what, where, why, for, and how of it. And a 9-day intensive, including everything, food, accommodations, workshop materials, everything is $1,575. So if you want to come and play, we'd love to have you here. If $1,575 is a problem for you, let's talk about it. We can work out a way that you can do it and spread it out over time or whatever it takes. So we're willing to work with you to make that possible if you're ready to jump in and do some deep inner work. And we're about an hour due east of Branson in the Ozarks here in southern Missouri. So come and play with us. We'd love to see you. Bless you.
And I want to add to that one of the best simple definitions for insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And the vast majority of us in this culture are doing just that. We are not happy with our lives. We're not happy with our relationships. We're not happy with our jobs. We're not happy with our children. We're not happy with ourselves. We're not happy with what we eat. We're not happy with our exercise. We're not happy with our sleep. We're not happy that we have to take so many medications. And we keep doing the same thing, or a slightly different version. So instead of making wooden chairs, we make wooden furniture. Let's see if it'll be any different. And making the commitment to go to Heartland for an intensive is doing something radically different. And I just want to put it out there that most everybody that I've ever talked to who's made the decision to go to an intensive begins to see things get stirred up in their life right away. From the time you make the commitment to go. And some of those things are wonderful, miraculous surprises that help make it possible to get there, physically and financially and emotionally. And others are all kinds of roadblocks, all kinds of excuses, all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't go. And one of them happened, I've had several happen in the past week. One happened last night. I had a patient in my office who's been coming for a good while, knows me well, and when she found out I was going to be out of the office for a couple weeks to go to Heartland, she burst into tears. And she said, "Doesn't it ever end? If you have to go, aren't you done with your work yet? This just seems hopeless. If you have to go to an intensive, what chance do I have of ever getting movement or get better?" And it was a beautiful opening to start exploring, for me and for her, why that was so upsetting. The idea that someone she would look up to still has work to do. And then I went to a business meeting this morning, and I had to advise them that I'm going to miss a couple meetings. And the questions about, well, why would you eat like that, and what's that about, and are you trying to lose weight, or why would you go down there, and you don't need that, you teach this stuff, and the resistance to changing the status quo is enormous.
Understatement of the century.
But as Guy Finley says, the resistance to an event, the intensity of the resistance to an event is directly proportional to the size and the importance of the lesson contained in the event. So the more resistance I feel from other people to going, the more resistance I feel from within myself to doing the worksheets or making the commitment to the intensive, the greater I know the lesson is there, and the greater the reward is going to be for me if I have the willingness to move through it, to do the next right thing despite feeling that intense resistance. So I just wanted to say that, put that out there for anybody who's teetering on the edge of the commitment to go to the intensive. It is far and away the most beneficial retreat time, work time I've ever done in my 38 years of traveling to different states and doing, postgraduate training and self-heal the healer seminars and all that good stuff. We have 2 callers with their hands up if you want to check them out.
Well, before we do that, just one thought, and one of the things I've found is useful to share with people who are in, and actually it comes about as I've done a lot of intense contemplation on it since a particular friend of ours was in resistance to why should I keep doing my work? If you're not done yet, I'll never be done, so I'll forget it. But I like to use the example of, I might be in front of an audience of, 100 people, and everybody in the audience is, between 25 and 70, and so I put as a thought, well, okay, so as I look around this room, probably almost everybody in the room has washed your body every day for the last 25 years. Is there anybody in the room who now, having washed your body every day for the last 25 years, would say, now I'm finished. I don't ever have to wash my body again? That would be ludicrous. Everybody expects, it's just part of the game, you wash your body every day. Otherwise, your body stinks. Your life starts to stink. It gets difficult to be around you. Well, in precisely the same way, what we're seeing happening in the world is a world that has no soap and water for the mind. Soap and water for the mind is called forgiveness. It was disappeared from the planet 2,000 years ago. In the last century, we have murdered in excess of 200 million people on the planet. That's stinking thinking. That's a stinking mind comparable to an unwashed body. Nobody wants to be around it, and it's vicious, and it's nasty, and it's ugly, and it murders people. It causes war, it causes divorce, it causes stress and strife. And we live in a culture that has no idea it's possible to change that. Well, that's just the way humans are. I'm only human. Excuse me. If you're living in hostility or fear, you're not human. Stop lying to yourself. You're not human. You're only human when you stop pointing the finger at somebody else. You live as the active presence of love, and you extend that love continuously, whatever anybody's doing in your world. That's human life. What's going on out there right now isn't human life. There's almost none of it left on the planet. Oh, yes, we have the parent who has the kind, sweet conversation, the words about how they love their child and how it's so wonderful, and then the child does one thing they don't like, and they puke all over that child and rip them up one side, down the other, make sure that they never do that again. That's not a human interaction. That's not raising a human child. That's raising a child to be inhuman, to function without the active presence of love, without a human life present. You want to embody a human life? You've got 1,000 generations. All of us have 1,000 generations of non-human life behind us. How many times are you going to have to wash that mind? Every day for the rest of your life. Or you'll end up back in stinking thinking, and you'll think that the way the world is running right now, it's being run by humans. Excuse me, it is not. Pick up the tools, do your work. If you don't know how to do forgiveness, forgiveness is a tool for removing from your mind, your body, and your emotions what never belonged. It has nothing to do with letting somebody else off the hook. If you're talking about you forgave them or you forgave yourself, you're not doing forgiveness work. Forgiveness is the tool with which you go inside yourself. You enter directly into your own dissociated mind, and you clean out its content. You clean out the very capacity for hostility or fear. If you don't know how to do that, it's freely available on our website, right-hand side of the page, www.whyagain.com. And about the 6th link down is download worksheets. Tap into that link. The first 7 links will give you the whole forgiveness process, the whole story, 5 radio shows on how to do forgiveness. Pick it up, put the pen to the paper. Start washing your mind every day and watch what a difference it makes. And yes, if we talk a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you and I will still be washing our minds, just like we'll be washing our bodies. And we'll be functioning more and more as human beings. That's what we're here to support on planet Earth. So, Dr. Tim, you've got a caller or two.
I do. Area code 517. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Rex.
Hello, Rex.
Hey there, Rex. We're going to see you in a couple days.
Yes, we are. And as per our conversation real briefly, Mitzi actually has to work until Friday evening, so we won't be able to come for what we talked about. But we will plan on being there Saturday night. So I just wanted to mention that to you. And also two things. The one was, yes, for anyone who would imagine that because a person, quote, is doing long-term inner work, like you, Michael, like you, Dr. Tim, like myself, that you won't have things surface when you make a commitment to take another, level, to go to another level. And I've seen this happen over the years so many times, but the intensity hasn't been there like it has been this time, which I find very intriguing, and I've been paying very close attention to that. And what I mean by that is, as soon as we made the commitment, it was back in, March, maybe, when we made the commitment.
Right.
There was just this gradual intensity increasing. Now, I also lend that to just, we're all making major shifts and doing great work, on the planet, so that's a part of it. But then over about the last month, it's just more and more intensification, to the point where it was just, I started going, this hasn't happened for quite a few years, where I was doing so much prep work to get ready for an intensive. And I wanted to comment on that, Dr. Tim, because when you mentioned that, it triggered that thought and that experience to share it. And for everyone who's out there that thinks that, somebody doing a lot of work for a long time means they've arrived somewhere, I totally concur. We don't ever arrive. We just continue becoming more and more aware of where we already are. There isn't anywhere to arrive to.
And you can't do a deeper level of work than the height or the level of your vitality.
Exactly.
So you can't. It's not until you hit a new level of vitality that you can go to the next depth of what needs to be handled, and that's the key to the process. So when if you're level 5 vitality and you have a level 7 issue, you're not going to see that level 7 issue until you get above a level 7 vitality, and that can take years to do, especially if one's kind of half committed to their work. It can take years.
Excellent point.
And each new level of vitality you hit, you're able to go into a new depth, and the new depth is more intense than anything you've ever done around that issue before.
And that's been my personal experience this time.
Yep.
And I'm
chuckling
now. I'm chuckling now, but I don't think I've been chuckling every minute of the experience. So, yeah, it's good to laugh about it right now. The other thing I wanted to mention is I'm doing a talk when I come back at the Coptic Fellowship. They had asked me to come back and do a talk, and I'm titling it. And the reason I'm sharing it is because I'd love you to comment on it, because it's specifically about, the material that you teach. But I titled the talk Self-Transformation, and then a subtitle is Suffering and Struggle Required, or Just a Deeply Ingrained Operational Habit. And I would love to hear your comment on that.
Good one.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It came to me this morning.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds powerful. And, I love the movie The Passion, where, and I don't know if Mel Gibson would agree with me, but where Mel Gibson, I think, very powerfully captures the pain that is inflicted on the man named Yeshua. And because he does that out of a space of connected love, he doesn't suffer. The pain is horrendous, but he doesn't suffer. And I love what Rumi, 13th century Sufi mystic Rumi says, is that in the presence of love, all pain becomes medicine. And so one of the ideas of the intensive is to hold that space of love and allow that pain to surface so that it functions as the medicine. And so I think it's a great title. That sounds like a fun one. I may borrow it.
Well, you may, by all means. Anything that I ever have that you'd like to use, you're welcome to. You being the person who has been teaching me so well that technique. Yeah, it is Michael.
Michael.
My mother says hello,
hey there,
Michael.
young lady.
Hold
hey,
on,
Mom.
I'll put you on speaker.
Hi, Michael. How you doing, guy?
Hey, I am absolutely blessed and highly favored, and you're on the radio with us, and it's a delight to hear your voice.
Oh, boy. I'm impressed.
There you go.
Keep on what you're saying, Michael, and I'm glad to hear your voice.
Okay, blessings. Take care.
You too.
She said you too.
All right.
So I'll just kind of check off, and if there's anybody else on the program or Dr. Tim, if you'd like to comment as well, I'd love to hear you, and I appreciate you. And hopefully maybe Dr. Tim will be coming in a day or two early for the teacher's training, and I'll get a chance to meet him as we're leaving for the Y intensive. So that would be my vote.
I was having that thought, hoping that you might be able to connect.
Yes, I would enjoy that, very much so.
So you're not staying for the teacher's training?
No, I'm not able to at this time because of Mitzi's work, and, we're coming to do this together, and we wanted to do it together, and so it may have been a possibility if I had to come by myself, but that's just the most important piece we're working right now is to come together.
Okay, well,
awesome, and maybe we can arrange for Mitzi to fly home while you stay for the teacher training, right? So who knows?
Well, we'll see what happens. I've got there's reasons why other than that, but we can discuss it. I'm open to everything and anything.
Yep. Cool.
Wonderful.
Well, I hope
Excuse me, Dr. Tim, go ahead.
I hope we do get to connect. My thought would be that in the different work that I've been doing and reading The Way of Mastery and listening to Guy Finley, my comment for you, Rex, would be that you might want to just change that title by dropping one word, and that would be the word self. Because it's not me changing myself. It's me opening myself to being changed by a higher order of a deeper level of understanding, either Ruka or the world around me that I grow into. So, transformation, suffering and healing required, or just a thought. It's when I use my 9-bit mind and I think I'm going to fix and change me, that's when I get stuck in the pattern. And that the core of the worksheet process is I get that 9-bit mind, I specify everything it's done to create the pain, and then I put it aside, I cancel my need for it to be right, and I ask for something outside of me to show me at that higher processing speed than my conscious mind is possible to generate what I'm blocking.
So, or actually, you're asking something inside of you.
Yeah.
That our culture doesn't teach us to connect with, to move that energy. When we hear the ancient teaching saying, do you not know that you are the temple of the Holy Spirit? Do you not know that you're the temple of the Creator? And that's the place where we make our direct link, our direct connection.
Yeah, and I think part of it, Dr. Tim, that's good input. Part of that experience is any time I identify self, it's with a capital S. It's more of a Jungian ideal or ideology, and my experience is when I say self-transformation, I'm not talking about the ego self, I'm talking about the divine self, and that being an expression of the transformer is who we are and what we're doing. So it's more along that line, but I can see where maybe the general populace might see it differently.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of self-help books and the pop psychology that, are teaching people to manifest this and manifest that and develop this power. And the difficulty with that is that it's the culture teaching me and the conscious level mind that's teaching me what it is I think I should manifest.
Right.
And so, the process of manifesting is happening all the time anyway. It's like Michael has in his different lectures, ask and you receive, and how can you tell, and wait, how did I ask for this? I don't want this in my life. Well, the point is, if it's in your life, you've been asking for it.
Correct.
You've already manifested everything you've got right now. And so if you go to a course on manifesting your abundance or the new car or the new house you want, you're still tied to that 9-bit mind, that logical mind, and all of the conditioning that's been pounded into you over the years. And the only thing you can choose to want to manifest is what the culture is teaching you is what you ought to have in your life. And that is such a limited range of possibilities compared to what Ruka has to offer or the infinite, the divine, has in store for us. If we can just learn to get rid of the garbage, way.
I love how the Course refers to it, those things of the non-being mind that we think will make us happy. And it speaks of putting away your trifling treasure.
Yeah.
There is no treasure. There is nothing valuable until you get your human life. Do that first. Then the rest falls into place. If you don't ever do that, I don't care how much stuff you got. I don't care how many billions, how big the bank account is, how great the investments are, how large the political power is. It is all absolutely worthless until we have a human life. Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Tim. I appreciate your feedback, and thanks, Michael. I'm going to sign off, and then I got to get my mom over to my sister's, so she's going to be heading out pretty soon. So thank you.
Okay, have a blessed one.
And we'll see you in a day or two.
Okay, take care. Travel safely. All right, well, we're down to just a couple of minutes. Did you have another caller, Tim?
Nobody else with their hand up at this time. But the number is 646-200-4169. If you're already on the line, one of the people from North Carolina or Texas or Florida or the other area codes I don't recognize, and you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, just press 1 and we'll pop you in. Here's 541 with their hand up. Area code 541.
Hi.
You're on the air.
Julie, hello.
Hey there, young lady.
Hi. I just wanted to say that I'm feeling really vulnerable and afraid in some ways. And it's about, oh my God, comparing myself to all the people who've been doing the work for so long and how good they're at it and how I've been not doing it and yet so wanting to. And I have a lot of story about why I couldn't. And anyway, I'm just looking forward to surrendering all of that and really restoring my being. I just wanted to say that, it's never too late, I think, because I've been waiting a year to come to this, and I almost didn't get to this year, too. So I at least am that much further along in my step-by-step process.
Well, we acknowledge you for the work that you've been willing to keep doing to make it open up for you. And at the same time, there's a wonderful line in the poem Desiderata. And it says, do not compare yourself with others, for always there will be greater and lesser than yourself. And the idea is, if you're going to compare you with you. What was I doing yesterday? What am I doing today? Am I progressively moving in the direction of my goal? Then I'm successful. And what everybody else is doing isn't my business.
Yeah. And we're all in it together anyway, so
well, and
I know I'm greatly benefited by everyone. Yeah.
Well, the other thing that's really important is the most important piece of information you can have if you're trying to get better than where you are is where you are. If you're going to make a journey and you say you want to end up in Dallas, Texas, the first thing you have to figure out before you plan the route is, where are you? If you think you're in Alaska, but you're really in New York, no matter how you plan the route, you're probably not going to end up in Texas. So if you're honest enough to say, I really haven't been doing the work, I really struggle with this, I'm really having this fear, that's the most important component to making it possible for you to make progress. And, Michael, I think we got about 30 seconds left.
Yeah, we're down to it, so we're going to close the show out. Say, bring a stranger tomorrow. Have an awesome day, the best year yet of eternal life. Bye-bye.